History is not a tide, it is a series of explosions. Most are small, contained, their echoes fading almost as soon as they sound. But every few centuries, a detonation occurs with such force that it shatters the old world and casts the shards of the new into a shape previously unimaginable. At the heart of such an explosion, you will always find a catalyst, a human being of such impossible ambition and singular will that they seem less a product of their time and more a force of nature unto themselves. Our story is about the greatest of these explosions, and at its core is a simple, terrifying message. Napoleon wasn't born a giant. He was forged in the fires of personal resentment and revolutionary chaos, using the map of Europe as the anvil to shape his own legend. To understand the man who would one day hold a continent in his palm, you must first meet the boy who couldn't even command the respect of his own classmates. Our story doesn't begin in a palace or on a battlefield. It begins with a hook. A hook of a nose on a sallow, intense face. It begins in the damp gray chill of a French military academy at Brienne-le-Château. There, a boy, not yet 10 years old, stands apart. His name is Napoleone de Buonaparte, not Bonaparte. That French-sounding name will come later, a piece of polish on a rough foreign stone. He is small for his age, thin, with an accent so thick with the music of his native Corsica that his French is a constant source of ridicule. The sons of French aristocrats, with their powdered wigs and languid airs, call him La Paillolene, or straw in the nose, mocking his pronunciation of Napoleone. He is an outsider in every sense. A charity case, a scholarship student from a newly conquered, barely French island, a land of vendettas and fierce clan-based loyalties. While these French boys talk of their father's estates, Napoleone thinks of the Maquis scrubland of Corsica, of the scent of wild rosemary, and of the man his father once revered, Pasquale Paoli, the freedom fighter who had and failed to give Corsica its independence from France. In the sour-smelling dormitories, amidst the casual cruelty of youth, a fire is lit. It is not yet the fire of ambition. It is the cold, hard fire of resentment. He devours books, Plutarch, Caesar, Alexander the Great. He finds solace not with his peers, but with long-dead titans. He excels in mathematics, the cold, pure logic of ballistics and trajectories. It's a language that doesn't have an accent. It's a science where the right answer silences all mockery. While others learn the arts of the salon, he learned the geometry of death. Then, in 1789, the world cracks open. The Bastille falls. France, the nation of his tormentors, begins to devour itself. For the young aristocrats at Brienne, it's the apocalypse. For Lieutenant Buonaparte, now a newly minted, still impoverished artillery officer, it is the single greatest opportunity in 1,000 years. The revolution is a storm, washing away the old order. Birthright, titles, connections, they suddenly mean less than talent, ruthlessness, and above all, loyalty to the correct faction. He returns to Corsica, his heart still burning with that youthful nationalist fire. He imagines himself a leader of the Corsican Revolution, a new Paoli. But he finds the old hero, Paoli himself, has returned and is wary of the radicalism of Paris. Paoli is a man of the old world. Buonaparte is a man of the new. They clash. The young, zealous officer and the aging, cautious liberator. The choice is laid bare. The small, proud island of his birth or the vast, chaotic, blood-soaked stage of France. Ambition makes the choice for him. In a bitter political struggle, the Buonaparte family is declared traitors to Corsica. They flee their home, dodging assassins, and land in mainland France as political refugees, more destitute than ever. Napoleone, the Corsican patriot, is now an exile from his own land. That last tether to his identity is cut. He is no one. He belongs nowhere. And a man who belongs nowhere is free to belong to himself alone. He drops the U from Buonaparte. He is now Napoleon Bonaparte. He is French by necessity, by ambition. He is a Jacobin, aligning himself with the most radical faction, the one led by Robespierre's brother, Augustin. It is a pragmatic choice. They have the power. And power is about to present him with his first real test. The year is 1793. The city of Toulon, France's great Mediterranean naval base, has rebelled against the Republic and in a shocking act of treason invited the British Royal Navy into its harbor. It's a dagger pointed at the heart of the revolution. The Republican army besieging the city is a shambles. Its commanders are political appointees, incompetent and clueless. The siege stalls for months. Into this disaster walks a 24-year-old artillery captain, Napoleon Bonaparte, armed with the recommendation from a political ally. He is there to command the cannons, but his mind sees more than just trajectories. He sees the whole board. While the other generals dither, planning frontal assaults, Napoleon looks at the geography. He sees a high promontory, Les Guillettes, overlooking the harbor. His logic is simple, brutal, and brilliant. He tells his commanders, forget the city, take that hill. From there, our cannons will not target the city's walls, but the British ships. If we can make the harbor untenable, the British fleet will have to leave. And when they leave, the city's will to resist will crumble. He is dismissed. He is too young, too unknown. But he is relentless. He argues, he bullies, he writes scathing reports to the political commissars on scene. He builds his own batteries, works alongside his men in the mud and the rain, sighting the guns himself. He sleeps in his cloak beside his cannons. His energy is demonic. The soldiers who have only known indecisive leaders begin to whisper about this small, intense officer who seems to live on black coffee and sheer will. Eventually, the old general is wounded, and a more competent one takes command. He listens to Bonaparte. The plan is approved. On a stormy December night, the assault begins. Bonaparte is in the thick of it, leading the charge up the muddy slopes. A British bayonet slices into his thigh, a wound he would carry as a proud scar for the rest of his life. But they take the heights. Just as he predicted, the moment the French cannons are dragged to the summit and begin to rain hellfire down on the British fleet, panic ensues. Admiral Hood knows he is trapped. He gives the order to evacuate. The city falls. Toulon is a stunning victory, and everyone knows who the architect was. From a nobody, Napoleon Bonaparte is promoted to brigadier general. His name is spoken in Paris. He has his first taste of fame. But the revolution's wheel turns fast. A few months later, the Robespierres fall. The reign of terror ends, and anyone associated with the Jacobins is now an enemy of the state. General Bonaparte, the hero of Toulon, is arrested, stripped of his rank, and thrown into prison. For a few terrifying weeks, he is one signature away from the guillotine. He is released, but he is a marked man.
He finds himself back in Paris, but this time the city is different. The revolutionary fervor is gone, replaced by a cynical, decadent scramble for wealth and pleasure under a new, unstable government, the Directory. Napoleon is jobless, penniless, his uniform growing threadbare. He sells his books, his watch. He writes desperate letters seeking any command, even offering to go to Turkey to modernize the Sultan's artillery. He's on the verge of fading back into the obscurity from which he came. History, it seems, has used him and is ready to discard him. But Paris has one more convulsion left. October 5th, 1795. 13 Vendémiaire in the revolutionary calendar. A massive royalist mob, 30,000 strong, rises up and marches on the Tuileries Palace, where the government sits. The Directory is defended by a handful of terrified soldiers. They are about to be overrun. In a panic, the head of the Directory, a corrupt but shrewd politician named Paul Barras, needs a general. Not a politician, not a hero. He needs a killer. A man who won't hesitate. He remembers the intense little artillery officer from Toulon, the man who understood the geometry of death. Bonaparte is summoned. He's given command of all forces. He has less than a day. He knows he is outnumbered almost 10 to 1. A frontal infantry battle is suicide. But he is an artilleryman.
He doesn't fire cannonballs. He fires grape shot. Hundreds of musket balls packed into a canister that turns a cannon into a massive shotgun. The effect on the dense crowd is apocalyptic. He rips the heart out of the mob in an instant. The survivors break and flee. In a matter of minutes, he clears the streets with what a historian would later call a whiff of grape shot. He has saved the Republic, or more accurately, he has saved the corrupt Directory that pays him. This time, the reward is not just a promotion, it is power. He is made Commander-in-Chief of the Army of the Interior. He is the military guardian of Paris. He is no longer the supplicant, but the protector. At the salons hosted by Barras, he meets the woman who will define his life, the beautiful, elegant, and well-connected widow Josephine de Beauharnais. He falls for her with the same ferocious intensity he applies to a battlefield. For him, she is the ultimate symbol of the French society he has always wanted to conquer. They marry in 1796. But the politicians of the Directory are not fools. They created this man, and now they fear him. He is too popular, too ambitious, too powerful to have in Paris. They need to get him out. So they give him a gift, a poisoned chalice, they think. They make him Commander-in-Chief of the Army of Italy. The Army of Italy was the joke of the French military, a starving, forgotten rabble of 40,000 men clinging to the coastline near Nice. They hadn't been paid in months. Their uniforms were rags. Some had no shoes, wrapping their feet in cloth. Their muskets were rusted. They were sick, demoralized, and on the verge of mutiny, facing a vastly superior combined force of Austrian and Piedmontese armies. The Directory's plan was simple. Send Bonaparte to this dead-end front. He will either fail and be discredited, or he will be bogged down for years, far from the capital. When the 26-year-old general arrives at headquarters, the veteran divisional commanders, Hard-bitten professional soldiers like Augereau and Massena are ready to sneer. They see this little pale creature sent from the salons of Paris, and they prepare to put him in his place. He enters the room, he puts on his general's hat, and he speaks. And as he lays out his plans, his vision, his will, the atmosphere changes. The smirks vanish. An eyewitness said it was as if he grew 2 feet taller. His eyes, a piercing gray, seemed to look through them, not at them. When he dismissed them, the grizzled veterans left in stunned silence. "This little bastard, he almost scared me," Augereau muttered. Bonaparte then addresses his army. He doesn't offer them platitudes about liberty. He speaks to their empty bellies and their broken pride. "Soldiers, you are naked, ill-fed, the government owes you much, it can give you nothing. I wish to lead you into the most fertile plains in the world. Rich provinces and great cities will be in your power. There you will find honor, glory, and riches." It was a pirate's promise, and it was exactly what they wanted to hear. He has given them a reason to fight for themselves. What followed was not a campaign. It was a whirlwind, a thunderbolt. Napoleon unleashes a new kind of warfare on the plodding 18th century armies of Austria. His principles are simple: speed, surprise, and concentration of force. While the Austrians march in predictable lines and worry about their supply depots, Napoleon's army lives off the land, plundering as it goes. They move at a speed no one thought possible, marching through the night, appearing where they are least expected. He doesn't fight the whole enemy army at once. He wedges his forces between the Austrian and Piedmontese armies, keeping them from uniting. Then, with the full weight of his army, he attacks one, then turns and attacks the other. In less than 2 weeks, he knocks the Kingdom of Piedmont out of the war. Now he turns on the Austrians, chasing them across the plains of Lombardy. The key objective is Milan. But between him and the city is a river, the Adda, and a long wooden bridge at the town of Lodi, defended by the Austrian rear guard with 14 cannons. May 10th, 1796, the Battle of the Bridge of Lodi. A frontal assault across the 200-yard-long bridge seems like suicide. His generals advise him to wait, to find another crossing. Napoleon refuses. The psychological impact of storming the bridge is worth the price. He lines up his cannons and blasts the Austrian positions. Then, as the smoke thickens, he sends his elite grenadiers forward. The first column recoils under a storm of Austrian canister shot. They falter. This is the moment, the kind of moment that forges legends. Bonaparte, seeing his men hesitate, grabs a standard. He runs onto the bridge himself, alongside his generals and his men, into the teeth of the fire. Inspired by his personal courage, the French surge forward. They overwhelm the Austrian gunners in a brutal hand-to-hand fight. The bridge is taken. The road to Milan is open.
Lodi was not a massive strategic victory. Many of the Austrians escaped, but its psychological victory was immeasurable. It was a victory over fear itself. For the soldiers, their general was no longer just a brilliant mind. He was one of them, a man who would risk his life at the point of maximum danger. They gave him a new name, an affectionate soldier's name, Le Petit Caporal, the Little Corporal.
More importantly, Lodi changed Napoleon himself. He would later write, "It was only on the evening of Lodi that I began to believe myself a superior man, and that the ambition came to me of executing the great things which had until then been occupying my thoughts only as a fantastic dream." The dream was now becoming real. He was no longer just a general of the French Republic. He was beginning to see himself as a man of destiny. He enters Milan in triumph, hailed as a liberator by the Italians tired of Austrian rule. But liberation has a price. Napoleon, under orders from the Directory, systematically plunders Italy. Wagon loads of gold, silver, and priceless works of art, masterpieces by Da Vinci, Titian, and Raphael, are carted off to Paris to fill the bankrupt treasury. He is both a liberator and a conqueror, a bringer of revolutionary ideals and a master looter. The Austrians don't give up. They send army after army down from the Alps to destroy him, and time after time he defeats them. The names become a litany of victory: Castiglione, Bassano, Caldiero. But at Arcole, in November 1796, his army is on the brink of defeat. Once again, the key is a bridge. For 3 days, bloody assaults fail to take it. His army is exhausted, his generals wounded. In a scene that would become immortalized in paintings, Napoleon again grabs a flag and leads a charge towards the bridge, a blizzard of musket balls whipping around him. An aide-de-camp is killed at his side. He is knocked off the causeway into a marshy ditch, saved from capture only by a frantic counterattack by his grenadiers. They don't take the bridge that day, but his actions, his willingness to risk everything, galvanize his men. They eventually outflank the position and win the battle. He is crafting his own myth, one act of bravery at a time. He understands the power of propaganda better than anyone. He founds his own newspapers for the army, ensuring that every soldier and every citizen back in France reads heroic, often exaggerated accounts of their victories and the genius of their commander. Finally, at the Battle of Rivoli in January 1797, he annihilates the last Austrian army in a masterpiece of maneuver, crushing a force of 28,000 with only 22,000. The war is effectively over. Austria is brought to its knees. And now comes the most audacious act of all. Without any authorization from the Directory in Paris, General Buonaparte, a servant of the Republic, negotiates the peace treaty himself. At Campo Formio, he sits across from the envoy of the Holy Roman Emperor and dictates terms like a modern-day Caesar. He redraws the map of Italy, creating new republics, trading territories, acting not as a general, but as a head of state. When he finally returns to Paris, he is no longer the Directory's pawn. He is the most famous and beloved man in France. The politicians who sent him away to fail now watch him ride through the streets to the adulation of the crowds. They smile, they applaud, they congratulate him, and they are utterly terrified. He has tasted supreme command. He has commanded armies, raised taxes, founded states, and dictated terms to an ancient empire. The boy who was mocked for his accent now commands the loyalty of the toughest army in Europe. The man who was once an outcast now holds the destiny of France in his hands. The Directory looks for another impossible task to send him on, something even further away, something even more dangerous. They look across the Mediterranean, towards the land of the pharaohs, to the ancient power of Egypt. And Napoleon, his eyes already fixed on a prize far greater than Italy, willingly accepts. He knows that power in Paris is a viper's nest. To seize it, he needs more than just victories. He needs a legend so grand, so epic, that it will eclipse all others. His Italian campaign was the forge. Now he will seek to build his monument under the shadow of the pyramids themselves.